or okay, now it's time to go back to the sub goal. And when you finish that, then you have to go or to the sub, then you have to go to the sub and so on. That's something that requires the stack and that is difficult. So just to be concrete, because we're talking very abstractly, if you're making breakfast, that's the goal. And a sub goal is, well, I want to make the coffee. Well, to make the coffee, first you've got to get the grounds. To get the grounds, you've got to grind the beans. To grind the beans, you've got to take them out of the freezer and so on. And after each step, you have to remember where you are in the sequence as a whole. And so that does have a kind of combinatorial structure, which quite plausibly could be the neurobiological basis for the recursive ideas we have, which in turn are expressed by recursive language.
I want to move on to another book, The Blank Slate. You would be regarded as a hereditarian as opposed to an environmentalist.
In the sense that I believe that the role of heredity is greater than zero, yes.
Yes, exactly. What I find so irritating is the way, and this comes to another thing, one of your things is my side bias. You are, okay, so you agree with Donald Trump, I mean, you are tarred with the brush of somebody else who thought the same thing in that one narrow respect. Do you find that is a problem?
I mean, that's a problem throughout intellectual life, yes. I don't know if Donald Trump has opined on nature.
No, I shouldn't say. I mean, that's not. No, I didn't.
But yes, that style of argument.
Yes, that style of argument.
Didn't so and so say something that reminds me of that? Therefore, you must be in the same camp as so and so.
You're a dog lover. Okay, you agree with Hitler. You don't.
Yes, right. and you want to engage in felinicide or something. It must mean you hate cats too.
Yes.
I think that's a pervasive impediment to any kind of understanding. That is sorting people into camps, especially by association or by association with association.
In how the mind works, I suppose you're one of the leading evolutionary psychologists, and this is a discipline which comes in for a lot of stick. I mean, I was once traveling with a philosopher, and we were getting on fine with him until I mentioned evolutionary psychology and Steven Pinker, and he started bristling and bubbling over with, what is the problem with it? I mean, isn't it obvious that evolutionary psychology is going to make sense?
Yes, and indeed, the reason it makes sense is that it's one of a number of levels of analysis, and here I'll name check your advisor, Nico Tinbergen, who suggested that to fully understand any kind of behavior, you have to understand its neurobiological basis. You have to understand how it develops in the individual, that is, in our case, kids, how it evolved in the species, its phylogeny, and its adaptive function. That is, if it is improbably complex, what were the selection pressures that brought it into being? And so evolution is, I don't think, explains everything, but it is one part of a satisfying explanation for any aspect of our phenotype, including our cognitive phenotype. I think the bristling does come from the chain of associations that I discussed in The Blank Slate. In fact, the reason that I wrote The Blank Slate was after I wrote How the Mind Works, I was surprised at how much of the reaction was politically driven, and I thought it deserved a book of its own. And the associations, I mean, the heart of The Blank Slate was, why is the blank slate, which is scientifically utterly implausible, that because blank slates don't do anything, and human brains do a lot of smart stuff, so therefore they have to have some kind of structure. Why should the seemingly innocuous idea that the brain has structure, and we can see that it has structure under a microscope. We know that most of the human genome is expressed in the brain. Why should this be such an inflammatory idea? And I said,